Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another spooky episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's running around the woods with me tonight?
I'm Tiffany Albertin, and that's all I got. Yep.
I'm Bill Tucker from A Gamer Looks at 40, and Josh.
Hey everybody, it's Kenneth Sanity. I'm about to kick this podcast into the fucking creek.
That's what you do when you're lost.
Hi guys, it's Helena. I also go by Hellpath Fury on TikTok, where I spoil scary movies.
And welcome. And this is another Patreon voted film. This actually was Tiffany's idea to make me suffer.
You're welcome.
So we are here to talk about the Blair Witch Project, which came out in 1999, directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Directed in the loosest sense of the word.
Yeah.
The loosest. I was like, how are we defining directed in this movie?
Yeah, very, very,
very loosely.
So I never saw this movie in 99, and I am happy I never saw this movie in 99.
I saw this movie in theaters with my friend, and she freaked the fuck out.
I would have too. I was 12 at the time, and I hated scary movies. It's weird, hasn't it?
I was 17, so I was older. I hate you.
Bill, what is your history with this movie?
I didn't see it in theaters. It wasn't an era where I was watching scary movies or anything like that. I saw this. I don't remember where. Again, like I've said a lot on this show, we cover a lot of these classics, and they've just been in the culture forever. I do remember seeing it with some friends at someone's house at some point, maybe 10 years ago. And I didn't see it in the correct environment. I was probably drinking heavily as I was 10 years ago. So I remembered a lot of it, but this was kind of sort of a new-ish viewing for me, where I kind of sat down and watched it, on a big-ish screen, lights off, try to immerse myself into it. So that's kind of my sketchy history of it. A lot of stuff that happened 10 to 15 years ago just doesn't register sometimes.
I understand that.
A little bit.
And Helena, what is your history with this film?
Oh gosh, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page and realizing I was 8 years old. So
I hate you too.
When you said that you were 17 when this came out, I don't believe you. I think you're lying to me, which is really lame because I thought we were friends. But I had this friend across the street who her parents just didn't give a fuck. So we would sneak over to her place to watch all the bad movies. And I'm fairly certain that that's where I saw this for the first time, but I don't think I was making memories of it yet. So can't tell you how I felt about it.
I can't imagine watching this movie when you're young.
I would have been fine.
I would not. But I'm also the guy who got scared of the movie Phantom. That was in theaters.
And Jurassic Park.
Yes, that too. That was not in theaters. But I was at home, and I was like, nope, gotta go.
Okay, I do like seeing expressions. This is super fun.
Yeah, no, I get terrified of movies a lot. So I used to not see a lot of movies, and now I still don't like horror movies.
And now tell them what we bought that I'm going to subject you to.
Oh, because of this show and because I'm willing to do almost anything. We bought a poster that has 100 horror movies that you must watch. So there will be episodes coming in the future for different random stuff that's on that poster.
It's like a little scratch-off thing. I'm super excited.
Is it like an advent calendar just for terror?
Like
that's
that.
fantastic.
Kind of,
that's so good. So you don't know what it is. You just scratch off one
you just
quadrant.
scratch it off. Yeah.
And then I'll text you guys and be like, hey, do you want to cover this?
That's really good.
I need that.
That's actually really cool.
I'll tell you right
Maybe I
now,
could
the
send you
answer
the
is
link.
yes.
It was only like $25. I was super.
And Ken, what is your history with this film?
You might find this surprising, but I saw this for the first time 2 years ago.
Oh, that is surprising.
I was 19 when this movie first came out. I was really on the internet at the time because I'm old, and that's what old people did then. And I didn't care about found footage movies. I really didn't. Like, I'd seen the McPherson tapes and The Last Broadcast, which this movie was heavily influenced by. And I didn't care. I didn't care for him at all. And I just avoided it. Now, fast forward to a couple of years ago, found footage is one of my favorite genres of horror movies. I've watched damn near anything I can get my hands on. And I was like, well, I guess it's probably time. It's time to watch.
I'm surprised it took you that long to watch this movie.
Same.
Ken, I have to ask you, did you see Cannibal Holocaust?
Yes.
Ooh.
Which is another reason that I was kind of like, about this when it first came out. Because I remember, well, I wasn't around when that movie came out, thankfully, or like paying attention. I don't remember the exact year, but it was the same kind of thing where Rogerio Deodato shot a film called Cannibal Holocaust. And it was just one of those things where very similar to this, very, very similarly laid out with the making of and the marketing. There was actually a court case involved in that one, though, which is funny.
As funny as court cases can be, I guess. Right?
I was like, oh, how are we defining funny?
Go ahead, please. Sorry.
What was that? Oh, go ahead.
We'll probably talk about more when we talk about the reception for this movie, because most of this movie really is the pre-marketing and what people said about it. The movie itself, it's a movie.
Yeah, that's fair, because like I watched this last night and I was bored. So
that's rude.
I was not entertained.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you actually watch it with the lights off?
No, of course not. You crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Then you didn't watch it the right way.
I also had my phone in my hand too, playing Marvel Snap, so there wasn't.
Jesus.
What the hell?
You're just watching some bad home movies of stoners. Like, what do you? It's not in the spirit of this.
No, you need to watch it again. I told you.
I watched a YouTube video that explained things. That was well.
Wow.
There's nothing to explain.
That's it. He's fired.
I just wasn't. I wasn't like the movie didn't get me at all. Like we watched a few horror movies recently, like Midsummer, where I couldn't stop. I couldn't put down the movie. This I was like,
To be fair, not to sniff my own ass, but I did watch my spoiler on this instead of watching it again today. So
Okay, that's fair. It's just, I mean, it's a movie. I feel like you need to be. It helps if you think it's real, because if I like this movie did creep me out, even though I know it's completely fake. It is fucking creepy, and like if you went into this thinking it's a real type of documentary, it's even creepier. Like it would have. I can see it bothering me had I not known.
Sorry.
I already knew.
Snap in goddamn sunlight.
No, I had a light on.
Imagine watching it with the marketing at the time too, because the way they marketed this was very much like, oh, this is a real thing that happened, and it was, on that cusp of the internet where viral marketing was not a thing yet, but it went viral.
But how did they market it?
They pretended that these were not actors. These were 3 students that disappeared, and they had the actors actually disappear for a year before the movie came out.
They had missing posters. They had a website dedicated to it. Everybody thought it. I mean, the disclaimer in the beginning even draws you in to make you think it's real.
No, I mean, it's a creepy ass story.
I don't know. I knew it wasn't real. I thought it was based on a true story is what I thought. And now I'm very sad it's not, but
that would have been creepier had it been sort of based on like some kind of true story. But if it made me feel very uneasy, even when I was paying attention. Like I paid attention at first, and I lost interest if they were in the woods when they were getting scared and lost. I started like, okay, this is boring.
I didn't. That's the part. The stuff I actually enjoyed more than the running around the dark with flashlights. What I found interesting. This is a neat movie. It's neat. It's nifty. I wasn't terribly scared. I wasn't terribly tense. And again, just because this has been around for 20 something years, and I know the provenance of it. But I was like, oh, this is not cute. And it's not or more quaint than anything else. It's like more quaint. Like, oh, this is kind of quaint and neat. This is a neat little experiment. And I think it's very interesting that you went from Midsummer to this, because it still has that folk horror going on, like, statues in the woods and all this occult stuff, which I actually really dig. I'm like reading right now the work of Laird Barron. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that author. It's all like this. Not Lovecraftian, I don't like that term, but it's got like all sorts of like mythos to it and occult stuff, and it's fantastic. So this is like right up my alley right now, because I'm just like knee deep in that author. So
had something like killed them or ran out of the woods like some kind of monster, I would have been more on board. I was waiting for something to jump out and just grab her at one point. Okay, then you get me, and then nothing. There's nothing.
So there is a rumor. I'm not sure if this is true or not. Someone told me on TikTok about this, that you would have seen the witch in one of the scenes, but they forgot to pan the camera left, so they missed her.
I've not heard that, but that sounds...
Because that would have been creepy. Like, if you just had like a figure walking in the woods, like you could barely see at one point, that would have made this movie way more creepy. Because like also like when we had subtitles on, because I only watch movies subtitles, there are things that you can barely hear.
The baby cry.
Yeah, like I couldn't really hear it, but it's there. But the subtitles told me it was.
I couldn't hear the baby cry.
My dog did.
PETA was terrified.
She got upset.
Years back, came to me by the couch, pet me, Mom, what is going on? She hated this movie. Worse than the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Poor baby.
When I watched it today, I literally finished it 15 minutes before we started recording.
Me too.
I used my headphones. I had my noise-canceling earbuds in so I could hear everything. And that, honestly, that's the way to do it.
So smart.
That is the way to do it.
Yeah. Mike Albertin, you did not watch this in the optimal situation. You had subtitles on, lights on, playing Marvel Snap, I don't know, juggling, tap dancing. I don't know what you do while you watch movies, but that's not how you watch this movie. I had the same thing as Ken. I was like, I just need to have it dark and I need to be, I had headphones on. I wanted to kind of really immerse. And those moments, because I don't know if y'all ever did the camping as a kid. I am not an outdoorsy person at all. I find the outdoors rather inconvenient, as I've said on this show numerous times. It's just inconvenient. But I did a lot of camping as a kid. I was in Boy Scouts. So I spent a lot of time outdoors. And oh boy, it's never that quiet outdoors. There's always some crickets or some wind or a river babbling. But it's creepy, and it captures the scariness of being outdoors at night in the woods. I think that's why I like the people getting lost stuff way more than the scary bump in the night stuff, because that's a genuine fear. Like, compasses are weird. They are based on magnets, and you can get lost in the woods real easy. Everything looks the same, and I've never been lost in the woods, but I definitely, that connected with me on a fear level. I thought myself as like a 12-year-old in a camping, like, oh no, this would be fucking horrifying. If that were me in that situation. What would I do?
I went camping when I was little, and I've always been kind of an on-edge neurotic person. I'm glad that I didn't see this before my family stopped camping, because I think if I had seen this while we were still in the midst of it, I would have been a horrific person to camp with.
Oh.
Yeah, I can see this. This would have scared me. I've never been camping, and I don't want to go camping.
No, not anymore.
I never did. I did get lost in the woods.
You're going camping.
Yeah, we're going camping.
I have gotten lost in the woods a couple times.
Just like that. Camcorders, tents. We're going to bring little stick people.
I have GPS too, so I'll be okay.
No phones.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think our next scary podcast, we should go do it in the woods. We can do a little group camping trip and tell scary stories by the campfire.
In Kumbaya, maybe.
Yeah, and you won't be able to turn on the lights or the subtitles. You'll just have to suffer with us.
Yes.
And the four of us live in different states.
That's okay. We'll bring the cameras.
There it is. Exactly.
That's true. The only thing stopping us.
2 in the northern hemisphere, 2 in the southern hemisphere of America.
We'll meet in the middle.
There's a woods somewhere. It's plenty still in this country.
There's plenty of woods. We'll meet in Tennessee. There's a lot of woods there.
Yes.
What about the Appalachian Mountains? I hear that only good things happen in Appalachia.
That was a solid no.
I mean, also, like, this movie made a reference to Deliverance, too, at one point, which I know one of the fan theories is that, like, the whole thing that's creeping after him is actually some of the townsfolk are screwing with him. That's one of the fan theories.
Flat out said that, too.
Oh, they do, don't they? Oh, yeah,
movie.
in the movie. Okay, I sort of watched it.
No, you did not.
Fans are wrong on that one. They're wrong.
Can't take notes. They just keep running in the woods. That told you he wasn't paying attention.
It didn't grab me at all. It wasn't my kind of movie. It's a movie I feel like you have to be like, one, I was watching it wrong. I should have had, I'm not gonna have headphones on, but I should have the lights off and not had my phone in my hand. But usually when I do episodes of this podcast, I try to watch the movie and not mess around with other things. But this one I tried, and I just got like completely bored halfway through. And was just like, this is not for me.
Our horror is, since our horror is very action packed. There isn't a whole lot of, there's sometimes a feeling of dread, but this movie really has dread if you watch it the right way.
So
but dread can be boring if it's, done improperly.
I mean, the movie's done fine. Like, the way that they, like, the actors, it feels real, because I think it is.
Well, it is. Yeah.
So, it feels it. It feels like they're in terror and that they're upset and they're not acting. Which
Tyler is very...
I would be too lost in the woods and probably not paid very much either.
Sorry, a second. I that is one of the things that actually takes the movie down for me a notch, is how manipulative and kind of gross the directors were to the actors. Evidently, they weren't feeding them. They weren't misleading them. I have a problem when directors do that. I just don't like the idea of manipulating actors to perform. I think you should be directing actors to perform. I have a really hard time when I hear that. It's like Kubrick was famous for doing that in The Shining, and a lot of directors have done that. And I just think I don't know. I have a problem with it personally.
Well, I can kind of go more into that because 20-year anniversary, they actually did an oral history. 20 years ago, Vice did, or for the 20th anniversary, Vice did an oral history of making this movie. And it's not that they didn't feed them, they just didn't feed them a lot. Like one of the lines that the producers said was like, we're 100% committed to your safety, not your comfort. And
thanks.
Yes, it's absolutely crappy, but I don't think you get this movie without that.
No.
I agree. But again, and I understand what they're trying to do, and they're doing this on a literal shoestring budget. I mean, they don't have two pennies to run together. They're trying to, they made, was it like $22,000 they made this movie for or something along those lines? Like next to nothing. So I understand what they're trying to do. And I like the fact it's actually called the Blair Witch Project because it really does feel like an experiment to a certain extent. And I like the results. I'm just never a fan of when directors kind of do that and manipulate as opposed to direct. But they probably couldn't afford real actors and real direction in this. And you're right, Kenneth. They wouldn't have gotten the same movie, and it probably wouldn't have been as good or as frankly interesting as this is.
So the original budget was between $35,000 to $60,000, and it had a final cost of $200 to $750 after the post-production edits. And it grossed $250 million worldwide.
And how much money do the actors see, I wonder, after all that?
Right.
That's a great point.
I don't think they got paid a lot.
No.
And probably no royalties.
No, I mean, I'm with you. Like, they don't, you could just hire, with that, you feel like hire somebody or at least make it a more safe environment. But this, I guess, is also that kind of idea that, we got to capture reality. So we're going to, have you suffer so we can catch it on camera.
So here's a question. Do we actually have the Blair Witch Project to blame for like Survivor and Big Brother, all of those reality type shows? Can we put that at the feet of Daniel Myrick and Eduardo? Oh my God, I just forgot his name. Eduardo Sanchez.
When did Survivor start?
Around that era, I want to say, right? Like, I've never been into that sort of thing. And I never really found footage movies either, which is probably why I didn't really get around to this. My brother is a huge horror fan. Like, I like it. My brother he sees all Desjardins, whatever, all that crazy stuff he sees. And he likes this genre as well. But so I don't really like found footage movies too much. So that's probably why I haven't seen it either. But I'm in the Survivor.
It was May 31st, 2000.
Okay, so would have been in production before this, but
the Swedish version of this show premiered in 1997.
Oh, but it still would kind of like that same idea of putting people through a lot of bullshit just to film them.
There was a Swedish Survivor?
Yes. Called Expedition Robinson.
That's a cool name. Yeah. I like that name a lot.
I find that very shocking.
Better than Survivor, that's for damn sure.
Really, there's not much. Yeah.
I mean, I did like the beginning of this movie, like when they're doing all the interviewing the town people. That I enjoyed. That I thought was creepy and interesting. It's just when they went in the woods, that's where I just lost interest. Too much wandering.
Why?
I don't know. It just wasn't interesting to me.
So, but this is my favorite kind of movie, like where you don't have a lot of information. You kind of have to use your imagination, like the original It, and even Jaws is kind of like that.
Never seen.
Okay, so, did you hear him? He said he's never seen that. What do we have to say?
Never seen Jaws, yeah.
I hate you. But it's kind of, you just have to imagine what's coming after them, and I like movies like that.
No, I mean, it was creepy with that.
In his review for this movie, Roger Ebert said that it was a really good reminder that sometimes the noise in the dark is actually scarier than what's making the noise. It's a big reason why Alien is still one of the foundational horror movies that people talk about today, because the alien isn't shown much. Aliens fucked that up, but Alien was just an absolute exercise in just dread. Like Helena was saying earlier, dread is the best. I love dread. Love it.
I wanted to see the witch, but it is creepy that you don't see what's happening. You just they just are getting fucked with. And they don't know what's happening.
Yeah, and going back to that concept of dread, I think dread is relatable because I've never seen a terrifying monster in The Thing, but I know what it's like to be paranoid. I know what it's like to have noises from the closet when I was a kid. Like I could connect to that really easy, but I can't connect to, again, scary monster coming up and frightening me because that's never going to happen. And my brain knows it's pretty likely that's never going to happen. So dread has a very emotional resonance, which I think is what this movie hinges on and why it's successful.
I agree with that. Because, if you think about the movie, the Babadook, I thought the movie was so scary until they showed the Babadook and until it made noise. And it was like a fake raptor from Jurassic Park. Like it was a very well known noise bit. And after that, I was like, this movie had me so worked up. And then that happened. I was like, oh, okay, well. And I think it would have, for me at least, I think I would have felt the same if they had shown the witch.
Yeah, because the unknown is so much scarier always for us. Not knowing what's out there.
And especially if we would have seen the witch as it was described by Mary Brown, just lady covered with hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't do much for me.
That actually kind of scared the shit out of me. I thought about that. I was like, ooh, I don't like that. And, she floats above the ground as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted a face. I would have been happy if just in the background, you just see a woman's face just watching them. And that's it. You don't see anything else. You just see a face. I think that would have been creepier and
connected to all the scary things going on.
I have to say the one part of the movie that I couldn't watch was the end when they went into the corner. For whatever reason, when I got there, I was so nervous that I was between my fingers, and I usually turn it off before it gets too bad. As soon as the person appears in the corner, I'll turn it off because it scares me too much.
I don't know what it is. Every time it sets my spine on edge. I can't do it. It bothers me way too much because I get sucked into this movie. Mainly because I let myself get sucked into this movie, because that's how horror works for me personally. I have to be invested, and I do everything I can to get invested. And by getting invested in this movie, when you're at that scene, you've heard everything that happened before, you know what's going to happen now, and you don't want to see it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, this is a movie that you really do have to invest yourself into. And I can't imagine seeing this in theaters with an audience. That must have been just that communal experience of everybody having this. And I think horror's best probably in that live situation because everyone's feeding off of it. I got a story about The Ring. I started yelling at a 12-year-old who was laughing, who's sitting in front of me. The kid started laughing. I'm like, shut up! Stop laughing! It's terrifying. I started screaming at this child.
Oh, no.
I felt kind of bad after. I really didn't know. He shouldn't have been laughing. He's during my immersion. Oh no,
I was been there either, but hey.
I was terrified. I can't imagine seeing this in a theater with people. That would have been. I can't imagine. But yeah, you're right, Ken. It's really, you have to kind of invest in it and actively because. This is a movie you can break your immersion very easily. Because at the end of the day, it's just three people walking around with camcorders and cheap film shooting stuff in the woods. But it's very effective. And that ending is extremely effective. I mean, I think at least it just ratchets that terror. Her screaming is really palpable. And everything feels very genuine and real because like we said, it kind of was. But they knew it's a movie. They know. But when you put people in a scary environment, and scary houses are scary. Dilapidated houses are scary.
Yes,
it's just a classic thing. And the woods is scary. So they use what they had to very great effect.
From what the YouTube said to me, when she's in that house, they start running upstairs and just stomping on the floor above her. And that's why she screams.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
You were in some creepy house and all of a sudden stomping comes from above your head. You would exclaim, I would.
I didn't understand what the ending was because I was paying attention in the beginning and I missed the sentence where they made the people stand in the corner. So I was like, why the hell is he in the corner? I was just confused.
He missed the story about the old man.
Yeah, I did. But I mean, it was as Tiff explained it to me what was happening and I was watching some YouTube videos. I mean, it is fucking creepy. Just the way they do it where she drops the camera and everything. It's it is very creepy.
And then it just fuzzes out.
Yeah.
There's only one saving grace and this was made fun of relentlessly when she had that little snot bubble going. When this movie was, all the rage when I was younger. I remember everyone talking about that little snot bubble. It's like the only reprieve you get from the dread is that little bubble right there.
She's pouring her heart out, remorse, and she is telling the families, and you're making fun of her.
Well, if that little snot bubble was full of remorse, I mean, we all see it.
I mean, the crying and everything looked real, and I think it probably was.
Real.
Yeah, because it didn't look fake. I'm like, none of this looks fake.
But I love all the parodies. You could just Google
I remember some of them.
Blair Witch parody, and it would be there. It was on SNL. It was the best thing.
I remember it in '99. I didn't watch this movie, obviously, but I remember
the parodies.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Those didn't bother me. Those
didn't bother because they were funny.
I would have been terrified of this movie as a kid. Fucking terrified.
That's the difference between.
Mm-hmm. Well, even I did feel very uneasy watching this film multiple times. I think that's another reason I didn't pay as much attention, because I didn't like the way it was making me feel. And I wasn't invested enough to want to care about what was happening, but I was feeling very creeped out and just uneasy.
You should have taken an edible before. Ooh, that would have been fun.
What? No. No. What are you talking about?
No way.
No.
I would have been more invested.
He might have been more invested.
Hey, I watched Punisher Warzone on while I was high. That was a fun experience.
Oh, dear.
Well, I've never been high or dabbled in drugs in my life, but I can tell you right now that wouldn't be great. Not from personal experience, just from what I've read online.
She's legal in Minnesota, so I can say it.
It affects you a weird way, so maybe.
Mm-hmm. I don't do it much with movies, just because I forget. I try. Yes. I usually try very much to be submersed in these movies. I don't know what it was with Blair Witch. I just couldn't get into it last night. So I also didn't like the characters. They were annoying me.
That's fair. There's this other element of fear that I think Heather had, and that was. So she was actually really freaked out that this wasn't a real movie or that it was a snuff film. So she actually brought a knife with her because she didn't know how it was going to turn out. So she was actually quite fearful of what was going on around her. So there's, the fear of the Blair Witch, of course, but there's also this very, very female experience of being surrounded by men and not really being sure of what's happening and being out in the fucking woods with where are you going to go, So I think that fear kind of comes out in her acting as well.
No, it does for sure. And that makes perfect sense. I also don't like the way the two guys are. They're fucking assholes to her. And it was pissing me off because part of this is, some movies, sure, it's all very well acted and directed, but since this feels very genuine, it feels like these guys are just being assholes to her, and I didn't like that.
You don't know where you're going, Heather.
They were pissing me off.
Where's the map?
It's kind of her fault, though, a little bit. So I kind of get it.
She was also quite bossy. I will not say at all that Heather was my favorite character. She's very bossy and very annoying. And it was the arguments they had were very trivial, which I guess could have been, made worse by the fact that they weren't getting enough food and enough rest. I'm sure they were grumpy as hell. And that became very apparent over the dumb shit they were arguing about. And who the fuck throws a map in the river to get back at someone? That's stupid.
That was one of the few things in the movie where I'm like, okay, writers, that's a very writery thing to do. Like, hey, I threw them. And he's laughing like he went insane. Like he had maniacal ha 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 ha.
Mental breakdown.
And that broke it for me a bit. I was like, oh, this is now when you're acting. This is acting part of the movie. Okay. But yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of silly. Come on now.
I think he just broke earlier and faster than anybody else.
But he gets back in though. But he gets back in because once Josh is gone, him and her, it seems pretty not level-headed, but there's at least a focus of, hey, let's try to figure this thing out. Where Josh almost felt like this kind of wild card, but he was kind of the wild card too because he was one, like you said, who broke early. He's screaming, "Help us!" in the middle of and he's just kind of. And again, that's why I like the fact that this wasn't directed, but boy, I wish it kind of was more directed because if you had a director, that wouldn't have happened. You would have had that continuity. You've had that continuity of character, but when you kind of let the people kind of go on their own and do their own thing, that's when it kind of gets lost, I think, for me. But again, I think the effect is.
But that would probably really happen to somebody. I mean, I would have a mental breakdown if I was lost in the woods and somebody threw the map in the river. And they ran out of cigarettes, so that's probably why.
That's another thing, jittery. Sure.
They were all acting crazy.
One of my favorite parts of it, though, was when Josh is sitting under a tree. I think he's kind of like rocking a little bit, or that might be Michael. He's kind of rocking, and Michael and they're talking about like, okay, you know, let's give him his moment, let's give him his time. And he goes, I think, does anyone have any cigarettes? Like, I was like, that's cute. Okay, that's fun. You know, like, okay, he's good. Let's move on. I thought it was kind of fun.
I hated Heather in that moment. She was like, we have to go. No, give him his moment. Like, he's crying. We have to go right now. Oh my.
And Heather struck me as somebody who had to be right. Like, she took the project seriously. She desperately wanted to be, in the film, she wanted to be the director. She wanted to be the filmmaker. Like, and she had a vision for this. Like, she's shooting all, and the guys are like, we have to get out of here. And she's shooting all the little statues that are hanging up, and she's doing movie things. Like, she's getting coverage, and she's doing filmmaker stuff. Like, and that's why I think what's interesting about her character is she's trying to will this thing to happen, and she's confident without experience. And that's a deadly combination when you're confident without experience. And I think that really lends a lot to that character, especially the breakdown at the end where she admits, like, this is all my fault. I screwed this up. I didn't plan well enough. I'm sorry to the family. That's like really very effective, I thought. It is.
I think that's another thing why I wasn't as invested in this movie, because I feel like had I paid more attention, it would have affected me more because it's so close to real life.
I had explained stuff to him, which was sad and annoying.
Yeah, it wasn't the right time.
You can't see me rolling my eyes. I'm rolling.
We can fix that.
No, we can't.
No, I don't. I think that was just part of it. It was too close to reality. Where, like, even though, like, with Midsommar, it was close to reality, but far enough away where this felt too close because it was North America. I think that was a part.
It looked real though.
Yeah, because part of it was.
But the thing with me with her shooting everything, almost like I feel like if these assholes are gonna kill me, I want all the fucking evidence I can.
And that's fair. I mean, that's one of the fan theories is that they're actually out there to kill her. I know when I was reading on YouTube.
Like, maybe with shooting all this wood, somebody's gonna recognize where they buried my body. Okay, just say.
Yeah,
I took all again. One of the things I did think about was, you know, they keep telling her, turn the camera off. Let's figure it out. And I'm half my brain's like, yeah. You would probably want to put the camera down. Let's kind of sit down and figure this out. But the other half of it, and I think this lends into her character, is this has to be worth it. Like, I have to get something out of this experience. Yeah. So even if I'm just shooting with a camcorder, if we make it out of this alive, there's a story here. I want to capture this. So we need to capture this, or else all of this is for naught. And so that's kind of how I leaned into that piece of it. Always a camera on.
Also,
absolutely.
I think, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you always want too much rather than too little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also, one thing that kind of took me out of it when they said DAT, my brain went to GoldenEye, because a DAT was an item in GoldenEye you had to collect for one of the missions. Only every time I ever heard the word DAT before. And since I was like, oh, GoldenEye, that was kind of like, oh, okay. I know DAT's a real thing, but that's where my brain went. Mm-hmm. GoldenEye, because it's an item in GoldenEye.
Yeah. It is.
So, I don't know. I just could not. I did find it creepy when they finally get to the gravesite in this movie, when they find the graves and then he knocks over one, and that's when all the shit starts happening to them. That was creepy and very cool. Like when they wake up and all of a sudden there's 3 gravestones right by the tent. That was cool in a creepy way. Because it's like, yeah, I'd be terrified. I'm like, time to go.
It reminded me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Helena. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say that it reminded me how much wooden stick figures and piles of rocks are really cool and creepy. Mm-hmm. They really, I forgot how cool and creepy they are. I'm like, oh, that's so cool and creepy. That's great. I like stick figures and piles of rocks. Who knew?
I mean, I feel like they shouldn't have gotten it lost as bad as you're going. I mean, I have got lost in the woods, but I felt like they kind of knew where they were going.
That was part of it. Like the witch was messing with them and putting them in the wrong direction.
Yeah, then there's like a time warp theory too, or something that I'll talk about shortly, but not yet.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing just reeks of spatial fuckery. I know that's actually the scientific term for it too, but like that's why I think the map didn't mess me up as much or take me out of it, because if there's spatial fuckery afoot, maps aren't going to do shit.
Yeah.
So
like the whole idea at one point where they're going in a circle and they end up at the same place, even though they're traveling south the whole time.
So what are the powers that we know that the witch has? We have spatial fuckery.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Let's go through what her list of powers
that aren't there, I guess.
State arts and crafts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
slime
woodworking.
Slime included.
Imitating voices. I don't think that's Josh screaming later on because you hear Josh screaming at 2 different points when you find part of his body.
You feel like he's all around them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I forgot about that. They find his body parts.
They find teeth, which are real teeth, by the way.
teeth and hair is what it is.
And a finger.
Yeah, they snagged those teeth from a dentist.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
hey,
like,
dentist.
what the?
Really?
Yeah,
Can we
real
get- yeah,
teeth.
those are real teeth. Yeah. Can we get these? Hey, dentist, unscrupulous dentist. Are you? Do you have like a doctor or anything? Are you licensed, regulated? No. Fantastic. Can I have some teeth? I'm sure you have some lying around. I mean, what do you do with them?
In his trash. What do they do with teeth afterwards?
Apparently sell them to Blair Witch people. So,
They'll give them to you. I asked for my teeth when they pulled them out, and they're like, "No, you can't have them." I'm like, "I made that. That's my pearl. That's my human pearl. You can't have it. I want it."
Yeah. Just because it's now out of my body doesn't mean it's just waste. I mean, it wasn't when they were there chomping away on Kit Kats.
It's my property. Just because you took it out doesn't.
it just creeped me out more when I found out they were real teeth they used. Like, I don't know, a little thing, but.
You read my notes.
Were they like? I mean, the stick bundle thing was also creepy, and I guess for them, like, it was wrapped in the clothes that Josh was wearing, so they were like, those screams weren't fake. So like that also added to creepiness this is a movie that got creepier and more unsettling after I got done watching it and read stuff about the filming of it.
Was it real blood?
I don't know about that part, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably not. I mean,
you never know with these people.
Probably not real human blood.
right.
Like, could have been animal blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Go to the butcher.
Like,
I need some blood.
Yeah, you can get that from any butcher. Literally any butcher. Just walk and be like, I need some blood. They'll be like, all right.
All right, hold on. Where do you want it? Here's a little jar.
But yeah, no, the time theory, was it in the movie where either it's in the movie or it's in the one of the documentaries that came out of this movie as part of the marketing on Sci-Fi from what I was reading, where they talked about they find the tapes underneath the house, like, and the timing doesn't fit. Okay. That was something I was reading or watching the YouTube video.
The timing doesn't
It was saying that it was found like it looked like it had been buried for years and years and years. They also go with the whole spatial theory that when they go to that house, because that house was supposed to be burned down, and it wasn't when they go to it. Again, not in the movie, but stuff that like came out right before the movie came out to help made the reality, show how real it was.
The marketing was genius freaking genius.
Yeah, it's a case study in how to do early viral marketing, and evidently that house that the final scenes were shot, obviously real creepy, dilapidated house. They actually had to torch the player, actually raise it to the ground after the film was released because they kept having fans showing up at this house, taking chunks of it out and drawing, and just like, because, obviously this movie got a huge following. Township just knocked it to the ground. It was this 200-year-old house that was in disrepair. And the township's like, we can't have all these kids running around taking chunks of it out. It's a liability. So we're just going to raise it to the ground. Yeah. It's, I mean, as far as the marketing, it's just a masterclass in how to do that and how to generate buzz and excitement in an era where it wasn't as easy to generate buzz and excitement. This was a limited release. Like, if it's first week, I was like in 20-something theaters. Like, it's the kind of thing you went to like your local art house to see. Oh, okay, this poster looks kind of cool. Let me check this out. Next thing you know, it's in. Yeah.
It's everywhere.
And in those screens, it was pulling in like $56,000 a screen. So, like, that doesn't seem like a lot now, but when you consider it was only playing in 20 theaters and this is 1999 money, when things actually, worked, like the economy.
Yeah, when things actually had value, right? Yes. Oh boy.
Yeah, we forget about that. When I look sometimes I look at the calculators of economics to see what things are worth. Like, well, things sure change. Not in the right way, but yeah.
Back when parking was only a nickel.
Oh god, you're making us sound old, Mike.
It's okay.
Yes, I remember when $1 a gallon for gas was a lot of money. Yes.
Was that the
23 Skidoo.
transatlantic?
Every time I hear that voice, Bill, I think of BioShock Infinite.
That is my BioShock 50s era, 40s era. Radio Barker. Yes.
Bill, can you do some modern slang in that voice?
Yes, I can. Give me a moment. Why, I do believe that Helena's TikTok videos are lit. Yes, by true facts. No cap. No cap, as they say.
That was good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm here. I'm here all day. I'm here to please.
Some of the things that I with the movie, like, no, I was saying, like, I think the video, the whole idea is they find these videos, and it spoke when I was watching it. It said that it was underground, like under the house in the movie canon, and that also adds to the creepiness of it too. Like when I was reading that, like I can imagine watching that documentary on Sci-Fi, going to see this film that never tells you it's not real, and just being freaked out. That's just.
So now I can't recall if I thought it was real or not, but I wasn't scared.
Probably not, because you were taught.
Even if I thought, well, I feel like if I really thought it was like real footage, I would have been freaked out. No?
The guy who watches a lot of documentaries, this looks like not that far off from a documentary, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh no, it definitely has that realism.
Yeah.
Can you legally though show a movie where someone actually died? I don't think you can legally do that, right? Because then it becomes a snuff film.
It doesn't show them dying, though.
It doesn't matter. Even if they did die, I believe you can't show. I don't know if that might be wrong. I don't know. I don't think you can do that.
I mean,
we were young and naive. We had no idea about that.
No, I know. I'm just curious. I think that's a thing, but I could have made that up. I don't know.
So when I was talking about court cases earlier, this is exactly what I was talking about. The movie Cannibal Holocaust was shot in such a way very similar to this. People down in the rainforest and encounter some trouble. We'll say trouble, but very similar to this. Back in the, I think, 70s, the director put all the actors in hiding, and then he was brought up on an obscenity charge. Like, they thought this was a snuff film, and he had to produce the actors to prove that he didn't murder them.
I can see that happening.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah, and Cannibal Holocaust is not light watching at all.
I've never heard of that. Now I want to watch it.
I've never seen it. I don't know if I could do it. That might be one of those, like, I have lines in life, and I think that might be one of them. I don't know.
I don't want to watch it.
I don't know.
I don't. I can tell you that already.
They do unfortunate things to animals. Real
That's it.
things to animals.
Okay, maybe not. I pass. Hard pass.
No.
That's what I think I heard that too. Yeah, that's just not okay. The only movie I'm okay with it happening, because it would have happened no matter what, was Apocalypse Now, because it was a ritual thing that they were that the people there were doing. Like, that's different. That wasn't for the movie. He just filmed it and put it in the movie. But yeah, no. At least in this movie, no animals are harmed.
There's a dead rat.
Oh, there was?
There is a dead rat. Yes.
There's a dead rat.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Dead rat.
Or a mouse.
It probably
I think they called it a mouse.
Naturally occurring in nature dead rat, I think. But
I feel like it probably drowned from the rain.
Probably the Blair Witch.
The Blair Witch.
Her rain powers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it was in a
100%.
weird position, so it could have been the Blair Witch.
And just as anyone was curious about what the internet says about my question about actors dying in movies, which makes sense because in The Crow, the actor died, right? So they should.
I was about to say that, actually.
Yeah. So according to Quora.com and the Chat GPT bot that answered this question, so this is accurate. This font of knowledge known as listen to this combination of things I just said. Quora plus Chat GPT produces X answer. They wouldn't use the footage if it was, but the movie would continue. They just couldn't use the footage, because if you have footage of someone really dying, now it is a snuff film. That's what this is now. So you couldn't use the footage, but if someone happened to die, which has happened, unfortunately, like The Crow, you could still do the movie. It's just you wouldn't be able to show that scene. Which, yeah, come on, who would?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Quora. Again,
that actually
you answered all my questions.
So.
A fount of knowledge.
Yes.
I don't trust Chat.
Yahoo Answers was
all
better.
of them.
Oh my God, it really was. I missed the Yahoo Answers days.
Oh, me too. Oh, memories.
R.I.P. Internet stalwart. Yahoo Answers.
Mm-hmm.
Forever in my heart. Never forget.
Pour one out for the homie.
Not to get completely off track, because Quora sends me 5 emails a day with some ridiculous question that some trolls answered. And I got to say, dumpster diving in Quora is an actually pretty delicious experience, because people ask these ridiculous troll questions like, "Hi, I just burned my friend at the stake. Do you think I'm a bad person?" And then you get like 5,000 responses, either "go away, troll," or "yes, you are a bad person. How dare you do such a thing?"
Am I the asshole?
And yeah, right. Yeah. And it's actually a delightful slice of the world, because it's two types of people: earnest people who wants to answer every question because they know they have the answer, and people just bemoaning the fact that Quora is now a cesspool of trolls and nonsense. And it's actually a kind of a delightful guilty pleasure of mine. That's what they say 5 emails a day.
I have to direct you over to Am I the Angel on Reddit.
I don't know that. I don't know Am I the Angel.
Oh, you are going to love it. It's incredible. It's only people who think that they're right, and mostly shit posts, but like very just out of pocket.
I am not immune to the wiles, to the allure of a good shit post. I'm really not. What can I say? I am human.
Another thing, like with this movie, is it feels very much like a creepypasta. Come back or something that because it feels like a story that could be completely true, like we talked about many, many years ago with Helena. When you talked about the drowning Ben story from Majora's Mask, like this movie kind of could fit in that same idea where it's like you could feel like it could be true, in the creepiness, even though it doesn't make sense.
I love that you brought up the Ben drowned story because that is my favorite little piece of internet fuckery. And I strongly recommend that everyone who is curious about Ben drowned, go Google it immediately and watch all of it. It's incredible. It'll change your life. It's
creepy, and it falls in the same category as this, where it feels like it could be real, even though it's not. But there's enough for you to buy into it to see like this is true.
If you want to talk about dread, Ben drowned is just all dread. So yeah, no, I would say that these two are definitely on par. Thank you for bringing that up.
I still remember Majora's Mask, episode 20 something, many years ago. Mm-hmm. Like 26 or 25, somewhere around there.
Holy cow.
26 years ago. God, how long has this podcast been going?
Podcast's been going almost 5 years. So.
Wow. Oh my God.
I know. That's why I was like, holy cow.
5 years in January.
I have to say, whoever said that this movie is 20 years old, I was like, no, it's not. And then I did the math and I was like, oh, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
I think Ken and I are the same age because I was also 19 when this came out. So I think we're the same age. I don't know about you, Ken, but I love being old. I think it's great. I genuinely have leaned way heavily into being the oldest person in the room and just being like, again, I've said it on the show before, being like a soothsayer. That's like this wizard that just appears and tells you knowledge. Like, hey, remember when Netflix just sent DVDs? Yeah, I do.
I do.
And guess who was heartbroken at when they stopped that like 6 months ago? My brother.
Oh.
Getting DVDs from Netflix for 20 years. Oh. And he was heartbroken when they stopped it because he's like, they have like really good stuff that you can't find on streaming, like all these cool old horror movies and weird documentaries. And he was heartbroken. He's like, sign of the times, man. I remember when Netflix streaming had nothing on it except bad documentaries in one series. You're like, why would anyone watch this? This is garbage. I like
it's working out his way back there again, though. Slowly.
Oh, yeah. They jacked up the price. And
all the streaming services are working on that way of like, let's get rid of everything we paid for. You'll just pay to have us, right? Like, just so we can have money. But that's another story. Last thing I kind of want to talk about is like the effect that this movie had, like with like the series. Like, there isn't a whole lot of Blair Witch stuff. I know there's a Blair Witch 2, then there's a Blair Witch in 2016, and a video game. Oh, Ken.
Whoa. All right. First off. To say that there is not a lot of Blair Witch is a crucial misunderstanding of the Blair Witch mythos. There is, there's Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which is not really a direct sequel. It's more of a sequel to the Blair Witch phenomenon. It's an absolutely fascinating movie, and I love it. There's also there's Blair Witch, which is a direct sequel to this, in which Heather's brother goes out to try to find where everybody disappeared. That was directed by Adam Wingard, probably 2016. I feel like that was
2016.
Yeah. There have been young adult novels. There have been like big scrapbooks. There have been at least 4 video games.
4?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I knew of 1.
Is there a graphic novel? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yes, there is actually a graphic novel.
I recalled correctly.
Like, there are so many things that live because of this. And it's bizarre. Plus, all of the parodies that came about from your just horrible movie parodies to the absolutely ridiculous pornographic inspired parodies. Like,
in your face.
There is so much out there that exists only because this movie does exist. And it's fascinating.
And a whole lot of Wattpad fan fictions, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I bet. I don't.
Fan fiction.
There's also a Blair Witch game. I know that came out not too long ago. Like a newer one. I didn't know there were other games.
You just said there was 4.
But I know, I only knew the one game. That's more higher
Blooper
production.
Team did the most recent Blair Witch game. There were some games that were released before that were like cheapies, just like done by a gathering of developers. It's all just lore.
And none of the lore was like, was there an actual story of Blair Witch, or everything was all made up for the movie?
It was pretty sure.
It was inspired by a lot of different things. It's inspired by a lot of different little pieces of, again, like folk horror and folk tales, which actually, I love that stuff. I didn't realize how much I dig folk horror until kind of this new wave of it came around. But yeah, it's inspired by lots of little bits and pieces of real stories.
See, now if they're being hunted by the Sasquatch, like Bigfoot, I'd be more into this.
Go watch The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Let's watch Harry and the Hendersons. That's more up your alley.
I know what that is, but no.
I have located the Blair Witch porn parody, and it doesn't look great.
Which one?
There were a startling number of them. This is I figured this out, the 2011 Blair Witch Project, the ... a hardcore parody. It unfortunately has several highlights that are, they look like porn.
Well, definitely check out the Bear Wench Project, which is just beautiful.
Can we have an episode about that? The porn parodies of Blair Witch?
Welcome to Games My Mom Found After Dark.
Brought to you by Helena.
Yay!
I mean, there's porn parodies and everything. That's funny. I could see myself watching this movie again, though. I really could. Maybe in a better.
You should.
I should do it high, though. I think. I just think I should.
What are you doing?
I decided that was a bad idea because you know how you are when you're high.
I do. I'm aware, but it could be interesting. I'll be more engaged when I'm high. I tend to pay more attention to
then
things.
I'm not gonna be in her room.
So I'd probably pay more attention to the movie. I mean, I paid more attention to Punisher Warzone. I did not enjoy that movie at all, but then I watched it again when I wasn't high. Yeah, the one that you got up and just left on because the movie was just boring you. Yeah, that movie.
Where he killed everybody?
Everybody, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
My favorite scene. Oh, for fuck's sake. My favorite scene.
It's all Ken's fault I watched that movie, too.
Good job, Keith.
So... I mean, I think also the fact that this movie ends with them essentially being lost, I mean, it adds to that tension and fear. I would have rather had a happy ending, but that's me.
Oh, did you really think it was going to have a happy
No, I knew it wasn't going to. That's the other issue. I knew exactly how this movie ends. Like, I knew what was going on.
Interesting. You would have preferred a happy ending? Like, that's something you would have actually enjoyed?
I don't...
That they got out?
Just her. I don't care about the guys.
Oh.
Screw the guys. Just her.
Okay, I'm not trying to shame you on it. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought.
I just like with Midsummer, I wanted more of an ending. I don't want to spoil Midsummer, but I wanted a scene that didn't happen. So I only cared about one person in that movie, and that was Florence Pugh.
You know what? I'm trying to shame you. Quit being a baby.
I think I have a thing where I don't like seeing women in peril in movies. I want the women to murder everyone and get out alive.
That's fair.
You like Final Girls.
So I think that was one of my issues. Like in this, is I wanted Heather to survive. I didn't like the two guys. I felt they were assholes the whole time, and that didn't help.
I'm glad everyone died.
Yeah. None of them were. They're terribly redeeming. I mean, but the guys are. But again, they felt very real. Like these are real jerky jabopes that you would hire from your town to shoot your silly documentary. Like they felt very. I don't know. They felt like real jerks.
Like 18-year-olds too.
Kids.
Yes, that's probably where I'm going with this. It felt like most college kids or people of that age. Again, I've said it before. You're not your best self at 18 or 19. No. You're not, and that's okay. Growth is good. Growth is important. So I didn't annoy me when they were fighting. Even when they were arguing, again, it's like tension. It's just like a tense situation they can't deal with. So they're going to start being petty and arguing to get out all the fear, right? Again, all that felt very natural. And again, that's why I labeled this movie as probably more interesting than good and definitely more interesting than scary. It's interesting. It's neat. This is a neat concept. It's one of those things where if you're a movie person and you're thinking about making movies, You probably see this, you go, God, I wish I had this idea. Man, why didn't I do this? Yeah. So many indie filmmakers just were banging their heads against the wall, like, this would have been perfect. I could have done this so much better. So it's a neat.
And then they all tried, and
then they all tried.
Do well at all.
No, it did not. All your paranormal activities. Again, I don't love the found footage.
Those movies.
People do. This is a me thing.
All right. I don't want to cover it right now, but I will say that I did see Paranormal Activity in the theater, and I have to imagine what it was like watching this in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I saw Paranormal Activity in the latest possible show on the first night it was available in my theater, everybody lost their goddamn mind. People were screaming at the top of their lungs, and a couple of people did leave the theater. Oh. And I'm just sitting there eating my popcorn like, oh, this is fucking great.
But that's why horror is such a great communal experience, right? Because when everybody's scared, it's really fun. Yeah.
Completely agree with that. Speaking of communal experiences with horror, I'm not sure if it's still in theaters, but if it is, I think you all should go watch it, is Talk to Me.
I've been really interested in seeing that. I keep saying like I'm just going to wait till it comes out, but it's still playing in a couple local theaters, and I'm always enticed. I think that might be cool.
You owe me a horror movie in theaters. We have never been.
Yeah. We've only been married for, 6 years?
We've been together for 8. Never have we.
Yeah, I'm terrified. To try to get me to go see The Nun right across from a haunted boat in Duluth, Minnesota, that was not happening. In the middle of the night, I'm like, nope. Too scary.
If it makes you feel any better, it's not that good of a movie.
Well, just be quiet.
The only horror movie I saw in theaters was Stephen King's It, Part 1 and 2, because
we did, didn't
I have a thing for that movie. I
still like the original better.
Tim Curry.
I love Tim Curry.
Any other things that we want to say about Blair Witch? Or anything?
I would like to get it pointed out. You can use this as a soundbite that Bill Tucker from Gamer Looks at 40 officially goes on record as saying, fuck them kids.
Is that going to be a drop now? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Yes.
Flip it.
It should be.
It's funny. Every time I curse on this show or other shows, I feel like people clutch their pearls. Like, because my show is so annoyingly wholesome. I annoyingly so. I'm sure. That's what people probably label it as.
Wholesome, but not
it's probably like listening to Mr. Rogers like throw out an F-bomb. Like it's probably bizarre. But yeah. So fuck them kids. That's fine. Yeah. There's a clean one for you. Clean.
Oh, amazing.
All right, yeah, because I don't have anything else to say about Blair Witch, I don't think. I'm trying to think of anything else. I am curious about that 2016 game, though. I didn't look up anything, but this movie got me curious to actually maybe play that game someday. The newest one? Yeah.
Can we get that? I want to play.
I do have something else to say about this. As of April 2022, Lionsgate is working on a new installment of the Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
That's cool.
Apparently, Eduardo Saverin, not the Facebook guy. Keeps saying his name wrong. Eduardo Sanchez is working on a television show based on the Blair Witch as well. So nobody knows if that's going to get picked up because it's all on Lionsgate's shoulders now. But both Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez did stick in horror. Daniel Myrick did a couple things. Eduardo Sanchez, of the two of them, he did the more acclaimed horror. He directed one of the pieces in VHS 2. I don't know if anybody here has seen that one, but if you haven't, it's a horror anthology. It's really good. Eduardo Sanchez directs a ride in the park with Greg Hale. And Greg Hale, if I remember correctly, was also a producer on this movie as well. So those two still do stuff together occasionally. Daniel Myrick does not.
Okay. Interesting. I'll just share one more quick anecdote before we get on to the balance of the show. So last night when I finished watching it, wife was in bed already. She goes to bed much earlier than I do. I don't sleep ever. I am nocturnal, like this cat, evidently. And my wife went to Home Depot or someplace, Target, and she found like this spooky. We're getting our Halloween decorations already started. We're already getting it together, getting it plotted out. And all I've ever wanted, because we had like a pretty decent piece of like suburban land. It's not the land, but it's like a big empty tract between us and the house next to us. And all I've ever wanted was to put like one creepy like ring girl just in the middle of this open field and nothing else. That's it. Just creepy veil over her face, hair coming down, and just stand her there. That's all I want. Nothing else creepy. That's it. Maybe maybe a random flashing light at night, just like illuminate it quick. That's my idea of scary. So James found like this like plastic thing that was like, but it's really neat. It's like this little apparition that you put the button and it goes, woo. And when I walked out of the office and it was all dark, I looked on the couch and there was this like white hand just sticking up from the couch. And I knew what that was. I knew that was the dumb plastic thing that she had just purchased. But I went, no. So I smushed it underneath like the coffee table just in case I had to get up and go to the bathroom if the kids woke up and I have to go upstairs. I just don't wake up all foggy-eyed and this apparition's hand sticking out behind a chair. I didn't want to. I was not scared during the movie, but I know how my brain goes. Because my brain may have been nervous, even though I wasn't nervous. And I didn't want my brain to make me scared at the middle of the night if I had to leave. So this movie wasn't scary for me. It was effective. And that, I think, is kind of my thesis on it. It was a very effective movie.
And you remind me of The Ring. I've actually seen The Ring.
What?
Yeah, I actually watched that movie.
You've seen The Ring, but not Jaws? Yeah. Priorities, my friend. Priorities.
Got no logic. I'm not sure why I watched The Ring.
Probably for a girl. That's not as important as
No, it wasn't actually. It was
Michael, you dated other girls before Tiffany?
I know how.
Actually, ones that like horror movies too. But yeah, I'm still scared of them.
Wow, what the hell?
He didn't tell me he didn't like horror movies until we were married.
That's not untrue. Or not Cap, right? Is that how it's supposed to be? Oh, gosh. I hate that. I was watching some TikTok video like, oh, that's Cap. I'm like, what? I looked it up. I'm like, oh, okay. But all right, let's go to Shelf Stacker Box. And Tiffany, what about you?
I'm going to say I would put it in the stack. It doesn't hold up, as much. I've seen it in theaters because I saw it in the theaters. And so I would probably watch it every now and then. Maybe try to get my husband to pay closer attention. He's shaking his head no. But now, like when I first saw it, it just makes me want to look up all the lore to it because that's what I did when I first saw it. I just immersed myself into the lore to figure out if it was real. Obviously, now I know it's not real. But however, anyways, I will put it on the stack.
Okay. And what about you, Helena?
Definitely the stack. When I rewatch it, I enjoy it. It's a good movie. It really changed the landscape of found footage, I think. So I respect it for what it is. I also have a hard time staying interested in it just because horror movies now are just so fast paced and so much happening. But it's still a good movie. And it's also very respectable how it was marketed. I think that's such an interesting case study. So yeah, stack for sure.
Okay. And Bill?
Yeah, I'm a stack as well, for all the reasons basically everyone said. Like I said just a few minutes ago, it's a very effective movie. And it's a great idea done to good effect, and it works. But again, it's not something I think I would see again, unless there's 10 years from now. And I don't know, my son was all like, oh, I want to see the Blair Witch Project. I'll check that out with you, dude. But I don't think I would actively seek it out again. And I wasn't particularly scared. I was tense, but not really scared. But again, a very effective movie, and it's really fascinating. I think it's very interesting. So, stack.
Okay. I'm going to put this in the box. No surprise there. I just wasn't entertained. I was bored. I wasn't watching the movie right, but I get it. I didn't want to. But I'm so glad I saw it because it's been something that's been on my list for at some point to finally get around to because it's been talked about so much. So I'm glad I finally saw it, but it's going in the box. And Ken?
Well, I hate to be the one who disagrees with everybody, so I'm gonna put this on the stack. It's one of those movies. It's weird. I can watch horror movies and if I've seen them 20 times, I can feel that same way that I did when I first saw them. Not this one. This one, I feel like it diminishes slightly every time I watch it because I don't know. I don't know if it's just a mystery is evaporating more and more as time goes on. But every time I watch this, I feel a little less involved. This is the 4th time I've seen this movie. And I don't know if I want to do it a 5th one because I feel like there's a better movie that exists in my head than exists on screen. And maybe that's what I'm seeing in between frames. Why this movie gets to me is I'm seeing things that I want to be there, but I don't dislike it enough to put it in the box. And it's definitely not a shelfer. So stack it is. Wow, that's 4 out of 5. That might be the first time that's happened.
It is, I think, yeah. If only I don't keep track of this. Richard Sampson does for me, I think. He still does.
Well done.
Wait, he
Well
does?
done.
Yeah, he does for
God.
me. I'm like, I'm never going to do it, but if you want to.
Who's Richard?
A friend of mine has been on the show quite often.
God, I'm glad somebody keeps track of it.
I think Watt is too when he gets this episode a year from now because he's a year behind.
He's a year behind.
He quit. He had a driving job, so he used to listen to all my podcasts, and he stopped driving, and now he drives again. So now he's listening to all the show again.
Oh.
Aw, that's cool.
He just
Good
listened to
egg.
100K celebration, which was a year ago. So, and as someone that produces a lot of episodes, it takes a while to catch up. All right. And if you do want to hear more horror movies, because this was brought to you by Patreon. People voted for this. The current Patreon poll for this month, or when you hear this, you have a few days to vote, is Hereditary 2018, The Witch 2015, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974,
Texas.
and The Exorcist 1973.
All bangers.
Nothing I want to watch, by the way.
All bangers.
Oh, all great movies.
Yeah. That's a hard one. I've been
Usually for me,
lobbying for
just
the
none.
I've been lobbying for The Witch to be on the show for years now. So because I really, really do like that movie. But we'll see.
I heard good
I'm not
things about
gonna
it.
influence anybody. I am a
I think I
fan.
cared for it.
I'm going to influence everybody vote for Hereditary.
That is
I agree with that.
Yeah, that is actually probably the better answer. Yeah, you're fair. That's
I
fair.
actually think I voted for that, and that's not my movie. So,
That's
so
fair.
it's going to be Hereditary, right?
I'd rather see The Witch, I think, but I also don't know what I'm getting myself into.
You don't want to see The Exorcist?
No.
But Linda Blair was so nice.
Yeah, we met her
She
once.
was so nice.
Aw, that's cool.
All I gotta do is mention pit bulls, and then she starts talking, and she don't stop talking.
Oh, so we talked about pit bulls for about 10 minutes, and everybody in the line was pissed off.
Oh, that's cool.
Tiffany's one of the few people that can say, or probably some other people, but they're like, when she was talking, she's like, here, tell this guy, call this number, tell him Linda Blair sent you, and he'll get you good dog food for your dog.
She did. I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
We never called, but yeah.
I never called. My
That was
dog
pretty
eats
funny.
the cheap food. Sorry.
But yeah, it was pretty funny. All right, and Bill, where can people find you at?
You can find me at a podcast entitled A Gamer Looks at 40. Almost all of these wonderful people have been on it. Kenneth, you have not been, but hey, one day maybe. One
That's
day.
way too much.
No, listen. Hey, on my show, you will never hear me say "fuck those kids." So that is a Mike Albertin exclusive. On my show, you hear people telling nostalgic stories about the games that affected their lives in positive and once in a blue moon negative ways, which I don't like to focus on negative. It should be like a celebration, but it happens. And yeah, right now I'm in the middle of an Earthbound series, which was supposed to be one episode. It's going to be 5 because people who like Earthbound love Earthbound and they love talking about it. So if you like Earthbound, that's the show for you. I don't know when this is coming out, Mike. So
End of this month.
yeah, it will still be in Earthbound Land. It's fine, great. So we'll still be in Earthbound Land, and then middle of October we'll be doing Final Fantasy, starting that series, going through all the mainline Final Fantasies, just like we did with Zelda. Hooray! And yeah, I'm in the middle of playing most of the Final Fantasies now. I'm not over it yet, but I will be. So yeah, A Gamer Looks at 40, wherever you download your favorite podcast or 8th favorite podcast, this hopefully will be.
And Helena, where can people find you at?
Hi, so you can find me on TikTok, Swimming Scary Movies, at Hell Hath Fury with 1 L in Hell. I also recently started a Twitch channel, so you can find me there at Helena Hath Fury because someone already stole the name. But yeah, pop in and say hi sometime.
All right, and you will see the link in the show notes to everything I just mentioned. And if you want to support the show, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a Patreon. We also have a Discord. Please join our Discord and chat with us. You see the link in the show notes. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Audio only, but we are on YouTube. And please rate us wherever you get the show. And we will. Oh, and we will see you next time.
Bye.